Okay. All right, at this time, I call to order the July 2026 meeting of the Municipal Authority. We're just back from an executive session of the board to discuss privileged matters. At this point, I'll do a roll call. Maria Kane here. Steve Mackel.
Here.
Walter Virginis.
Here.
Tim Kelly.
Here.
Kevin Moyer.
Here.
Our solicitor, Mike Madron, is here, as well as Dave Porter, our engineer, and our operations manager, Stephen Meese. Everybody's had a chance to review the agenda. All right, may I have a motion to approve?
So move.
Take a motion from Steve. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second from Walter. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, I see that we have, oh yeah, I missed the Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I see that we have some members of the public. Do we have, you've had a chance to review the agenda. Do you see anything on the agenda that you would be making a comment on? Okay, at this time, does the board have any objection to perhaps having our public comment from? Would you,
Sounds good.
do you want to stand at the, just because I'm thinking maybe you don't want to sit through the entire meeting as we're. Okay. Okay. Just state your name and your address and then let us know what you're here for.
Okay. Okay. I would like to know what is the process of to place the permanent crossing sign from one side of the Goshen to the Culbertson school.
And at this point, I'm gonna let Steve Neese.
If you don't mind, I'm gonna cut you off, because this is the municipal authority meeting.
Okay.
And the municipal authority is responsible for the sewers of the township, so where you flush the toilet, the sewers, that's what this group works with. They're not the Board of Supervisors.
Okay.
The Board of Supervisors' next meeting is, I think it's August, the 10th.
Okay.
But if you, I believe you sent in an email request.
I
for the same
sent a
thing.
couple of times.
Yeah.
There was a discrepancy in understanding of the staff, what the process is.
Yeah,
So I contacted PennDOT.
yes,
And there is no way for me as individual to make that
Yes.
request. It needs to come from the township.
yeah,
And then I was told to just send an email into this.
yes. And so we have received your email. I will be discussing it with the board, that's a
Okay.
request. Apologize, I haven't had a chance to do that yet. I think we got it last week. And at least I got it last week. We will, I need to at least reach out to a couple board members and see what their appetite is for for that kind of a change. Because it is through PennDOT that we have to work.
Right.
We can request it, but it would be what's considered a mid-block crossing. And so we need to take a look at it that way. And so I just have to work with the board on that.
Okay, so if you don't mind, I would like to take a proactive approach. And if I can come to the board meeting, is that okay?
You can come to that board meeting. What I'd recommend though,
Okay,
is I think we have a card for me here. I'm gonna give you my card, or at least my contact information, and you reach out to me directly between now and then, and let's just set up a meeting so that I can bring in the staff that can help us know what the impact is of what you're asking, so that I can share that with the board, so that when you come and share, they at least have an idea of what we're talking about.
Excellent.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And Mike, at this point, should I have the other, should we handle the other comments from the, or shall I wait till the resolution?
I would probably wait for the resolution, but you could move the resolution up. That's not.
Yeah, I think that might be a good idea.
Yeah.
So moving on to item number 11 on the agenda, and then we'll go back to the treasurer's report. So on the agenda, we have a resolution number 2026-04, authorizing and directing the optional redemption of the guaranteed sewer revenue bond series 2018 and the termination of the related authorizing the issuance of the $29,300,000 guaranteed sewer revenue notes 2026 series to fund the optional redemption and accepting the loan commitment from the Delaware Valley Regional Finance Authority to purchase the 2026 notes. Before we do have members of the Delaware Valley Regional Finance Authority here to answer any questions, but let's put a motion to approve that resolution first. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Steve. Second from Tim Kelly. Okay, at this point, any questions or comments? We do have representatives from the Delaware Valley Regional Finance Authority here. And if anybody has any questions for them.
So Lucian and Jeff, can you just come up and give these guys an overview of the history of the authority and what you guys do? And then I think maybe there'll be some questions that flow from that.
Thank you for having us. Delval, I'm going to shorten it. Delval was founded in 1985, so over 4 decades ago, to provide a lower cost funding option than the other available alternatives for local governments and municipalities. We've been highly successful over the past 40 years. We've issued over $4 billion of loans to over 215 borrowers and about 650 loans in total. We have a board that really cares about what we do, and they do the right things for the right reasons, making sure that we're able to provide cheapest cost financing we possibly can.
And you're not for profit, correct?
Correct. So Delval is set up as a not-for-profit co-op bank, essentially a fancy way of saying that we raise money cheaply due to our large scale, and we have a pool of cheap capital that's waiting for people like yourselves to come along and ask for a loan. And we pass all the value that we get from our scale through to our participants like yourselves. So you get lower cost financing than you would be able to achieve otherwise on your own through either the bond market or bank loans.
I know in order to do this financing, we need the township to act as a guarantor too. And one of the concerns that the townships expressed in my conversation with their solicitor is the concept of the swap. And can you explain how the swap applies to this transaction versus what the history of swap, what the concerns that people generally have about swaps and how this is different?
Sure. Like any well-managed bank, Delval executes a hedging strategy to manage our interest rate risk. We do so through the interest rate derivative market, which is part of the interest rate swap market. We execute hedging transactions to be able to, in layman's terms, pass that value of the cheap capital through to yourselves in the form of lower costs or lower interest rates and lower fees. Historically, pre-08, a a lot of local governments were running around doing interest rate swaps in the form of quote unquote hedges, which were really bets that something like a hedge fund would make. Some of them had their heads taken off and paid millions of dollars in termination fees. Those swaps that were executed are completely different than the way that we operate. Everything we do is a hedge against a liability or an asset. So we're always matched 1-for-1. So as a result, we eliminate all of our interest rate risk. So during COVID-19, the global financial crisis, long-term capital management's meltdown in 98, the most recent Silicon Valley Bank and a bunch of other regional banks melting down. That freezes the bond market and bank markets for a period of time. But because of the way we use interest rate swaps, we're indifferent to those market shocks occurring. For example, during COVID, the bond market was shut down for almost 2 months. We executed about a year's worth of transactions in 6 weeks. So we operate as normal because of these interest rate swaps. The interest rate swaps are the whole reason the program is able to pass that value to you. They're a good thing.
So to dumb it down to language I can understand, hopefully, this is basically a traditional loan at the end of the day, both from the municipal authority, and I know there's some special features, we'll get into that, but from the municipal authority's perspective and the township's perspective as guarantor, would you say it carries the same risk as a traditional loan?
If from your perspective, it's essentially a bank loan, which is the whole purpose. You're responsible for yourselves paying your interest and principal payments on time. Beyond that, all the hedges and the raising of funds at scale is my problem. And you get the benefit of me doing all that work and Lucian doing all that work, but you don't have to think about it. You don't have to manage it. You just get all the benefit.
So whatever rate the authority locks in, is there a risk of them paying a higher rate?
If you fix to maturity, your rate will always be 4%, for example. If you fix your rate at 4%, no matter what happens in the world, rates could go to 15% and you'd still have a 4%.
Right. Can you talk a little bit about the option?
Sure. So you would be fixing your loan for 22 years and you would have an option to reset the rate on your existing DelVal loan, which means you're essentially just reaching out to us saying that rates are, say, for example, for illustrative example, rates are at 4% now. In 10 years, rates are at 2%. We would reach out to you telling you, hey, rates are at 2% right now. You should exercise your option to reset your rate on your existing loan. That process to yourselves is free. If you were to do that via any other debt option, you would be incurring new cost of issuance, which costs you probably $250,000.
And that's if that hypothetical 2% occurred at any time during that 10-year period, right?
If,
you said something important because it's a question one of the board members asked me, and that's let's say that 2% happens in 5 years and Steve's retired and Dave has become the president of Macombi and he's not sitting here and God willing, I'm moved on to greener pasture somewhere and nobody here is there. You guys are monitoring this and reaching out?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So part of the wrinkle of how the rules are written, DelVal becomes, you become an obligated person to DelVal, which is just legal speak for we have to give you accurate and good analysis and we have to know your situation to be able to provide you the best possible information to lower your interest rate and lower your fees. Part of that deal is that we monitor the interest rate market for you. So to your example, Mike, if rates drop to 1% at year 5 and you still have 5 years to wait till your option date, we could fix the rate at year 5 to be effective in year 10 And it wouldn't matter what happens at year 10. Rates could be back up to 4%, and you're still going to get a 1% interest rate.
And how would that be communicated to the board?
We would reach out and basically say that this is something you should consider doing, and we would show you a pro forma, which is just numbers showing you the amount of savings that you would realize.
I guess I'm just wondering,
So
is
you-
there a fiduciary obligation to do that? So in other words, if you didn't, there's then.
It's a duty of care, but yes, it's basically that.
Is there an annual review?
We monitor the markets, so it's kind of a continuous thing that we're always looking at. So we have basically software that will tell us if things are, or if it makes sense to ever exercise an option or rates are lower than existing rates. So it's always something we look at almost on a daily basis.
I just had another question on cost of issuance in comparison to a bond issuance. Would you give us some information on that as to where you fall?
Sure. Cost of issuance compared to the market is roughly 40 to 60% of what a bond issue would cost. Due to the fact that we've been around for 40 years, we've streamlined our processes to be able to originate loans greatly. And instead of capturing that value, because going back to the nonprofit portion, we push that value to our participants in the form of lower fees.
And then I had another question about like the size of this loan, and this is our only debt, as I understand it. So does that raise any concerns for you?
No, the larger and the longer that Del Val loans are, the more financially attractive they become.
Forgive me, I might be the least informed about what's been going on with the financing numbers behind the scenes, but just taking a step back, we have significant existing debt, and this is an opportunity to work in our favor to refinance, right? So we're going to refinance, and there will be savings as a result of doing this to our ratepayers. What's the present value of the savings if we were to agree to this?
As of close today, it'd be about 1.7, 1.8 million.
Are there 1.7, 1.8? Are there any other products that we should consider or should have considered before agreeing to that?
Bank loans and bond issues are the other two that are obvious. Bank loans usually won't be willing, or banks usually won't be willing to go past 10 years, maybe 12 if you're lucky. So you would have rate risk at 12 years where your rate would have to be reset, and you would become prime plus 300 basis points or something like that, or prime plus 3%, which right now is like 6% or 7%. And then that basically leaves bond issues as your only other viable option.
And when you give this speech to other entities like this municipal authority here, and they ultimately don't go with your product, why would they do that?
Cost isn't the main driving concern.
What would be?
I don't know. You'd have to ask them, I suppose.
Thank you.
Anybody else with any other questions?
As far as a timeline of our bond is coming up in September, what would be required of the township, or pardon me, the municipal authority that you would need prior to that?
Just the adoption of this resolution that's in front of you. That's as far as we need for, as much as we need from this authority board.
Anything else?
We would require a guarantee from the township, which requires them to do to enact an ordinance and then go through a process with DCD, which is essentially them making sure that everything was legally met. That process takes approximately 30 days to complete in full. And after that point, you could close on the loan.
Are there any reporting requirements going forward?
Just to Del Val, which is a continuing disclosure agreement that requires you to send us your audits when they're completed, and then any rating changes as well.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
So sorry, I'm the secretary and I missed your name when you first started speaking.
Jeff Calhoun.
Thank you.
And do you want to see if the township folks have any questions for these guys since we're all in the room together?
We have some members of the township here. Any questions from?
got an extended meeting this afternoon.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Yeah.
We basically had two proposals to look at this refinancing. September 1st is the first day that's available for 2018. And as you know, there's a fear that interest rates are going to increase. So we would like to do this with all due speed. The good news is that the proposal we have from Del Val will save our taxpayers, our ratepayers, $2.2 million over the course of this new bond issue. In fact, next year it'll save $120,000. That'll directly go into our budget and be a reduction for the ratepayers and taxpayers. And we're always hearing about our bills being high, so this is a relief, something that we can actively do to try to bring some of our costs back in line. We think that this is a really great proposal. We're not afraid of the swaps because they're dealing with, at this point, $1.8 billion worth of swaps. They're basically a bank. If we were on an individual basis, go with variable rate debt and buy our own swap to fix it or to create a collar around it so that we didn't have to be subject to the fluctuations of the market, it would be like, as an individual, we wouldn't be able to do it and we would lose money, which is what you alluded to, is that banks, because they were greedy, went out and sold swaps to everybody in the sun, not-for-profits, municipalities, authorities, anybody they could get to buy a swap, they swapped, and people lost money on those swaps because they were priced so that the banks make money and the people lost money. This is well beyond that. This is like, I guess the analogy about the swap is you don't go into a bank and ask the bank how they get their money. They're successful in getting their money because of 40 years of history and the fact that if they're managing $1.8 billion worth of swaps, I think they know what they're doing. In terms of the risk, there's a very minor risk. In the history, there's only been two people that were fined for disbanding a debt. One was when Aqua bought a sewer authority. Obviously, they can't buy or not-for-profit debt, so they had to refinance it and they got charged. The other was a township or rather a county that decided to bail out of a debt in 3 months. Why, I don't know, but they got charged $500. That's not a big deal. The township itself has 8.789 million already on the hook as of June 30th with Del Val. So it's not a new risk for the township. In fact, in the 2022 audit, the township said as of December 31st, 2022, Del Val would have received a payment of approximately 132 million if all of the swap agreements were terminated. Therefore, no amounts are reflected on the township's financial statement. They didn't believe it was a risk. They still shouldn't believe it's a risk because as of December 31st, 2025, we're $75 million positive. So the size of Del Val, of their knowledge and the size of the swaps that are meeting makes it really not a risk at all. So that the possibility of being a risk would be so remote. We did get a proposal from Stifel, who the person that works for Stifel now was the underwriter on the 2018 debt. The problem with them is that we talked about this.
That would be a bond issuance, right?
Yeah, they want
And
to
I think right now we're kind of focusing
Okay.
on the Del Val proposal, which is the resolution on the floor.
Okay.
I would also just add in, Walt, that besides the $2.2 million in savings,
Mhm.
the issuance savings,
Mhm.
if we were to go another route for the bond.
Right. The
Yeah.
cost of issuance is 150,000. The cost of issuance in 2018 was 494,000. And so it would be probably over $500,000. So the savings is at least $350,000. I mean, once again, that's something that comes out of the ratepayer's pocket. It's something that we need to be conscious of. Everything that we do is really to protect them. And it's just a huge savings that we can't really avoid.
I do have to say, Walter, Virginis on our board spent a lot of time reviewing all of the information related to this refinance, and we really appreciate all the input that he's provided.
Thank you.
Does anybody else have any questions for Lucian or Jeff?
Or Jeff. Yeah, his name.
That's okay. It took me about 4 or 5 meetings to get
Yeah.
Kevin's name down. Anybody else?
No.
And I don't think I need to read the entire resolution, do I? Got the
No,
motion,
the
it's been
motion in a
seconded.
second. I think there's a pretty
Okay.
good description of what we're doing here on the floor now. So.
Okay. All right, all those in favor?
I,
Aye. Okay, that motion passes. All right,
Thank you.
Thank you.
thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, next. What's that? I did approve the agenda, but I didn't do the minutes.
Minutes. Thanks.
All right, everybody's had a chance to to review the minutes from our June 15, 2026 meeting.
Yes.
All right, do I hear a motion to approve?
So
moved.
moved.
second.
I'll take a motion from Steve, second from Walter. All right, the next is treasurer's report.
We have to vote.
Oh, I'm sorry. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All right, next is the treasurer's report. Steve, are you going to present anything by way of that or?
Well, in your
This package.
In your packet, I don't remember the exact page it starts on. I did try to give you kind of a position of where you were financially. As you can see, you have roughly $11 million in cash between several accounts. Most of that resides obviously between your RHM side, SR2 and SR3 in that way. There is some cash that's set aside in the escrow fund as well. I also included for you the escrow bank rec and the municipal authority general accounting bank rec. We were still working on the capital one, and so that was not included. We'll get that to you as soon as we're done that one. Under the revenue and expenses, I'll answer any questions. It's kind of one of those, you picked up the June, you picked up your billing for the first quarter. And so that's in there. You also happen to pick up your second payment to your CDCA and to your RHM. So those are both in there. And those are kind of showing all to be about on target. The billing is, I think, a little bit behind, just looking at it, you know, and where we were anticipating being in both SR2 and SR3. But nothing that I'm screaming at today going, oh, you better, you know, we got to take a look at this or anything. I would make note when I looked at it for, you know, I think SR2 is a little bit behind and SR3 is a little bit ahead. So if you know, which tends to be the case, it kind of goes back and forth depending on which one has the most. We'll get into talking about a few things that may change that, I think, later in the meeting. And so we'll look at that. You have a question? I can.
Yeah, in terms of the cash, are there any restrictions on the cash? Is it all like available for our use, or is it certain things restricted for capital needs or?
Yeah, so there is some set aside for capital. There is some set aside. You as a board, and I'm looking at the board here, realizing that I think the only one that was on the board at the time was Maria. When it was, I don't mean that in a bad way. That was a positive. You've been here for a while.
I know, that's the problem.
You've got a good history with the board, but we made a decision back, I think it was in about 2016, that the municipal authority would do its best to retain at least 25% of operating expenses within the operating account, and that there would be at least $1 million in the two capital accounts. Because a single event could spend $1 million pretty quickly.
Sure.
Actually, you could spend more than that, but that would give you enough to do that. I could go back and try to find that document, but I believe it was about 2016. I don't know if you remember, Maria, but it was a while back that
Yeah.
you had passed that.
Yep.
And so we've always tried to do that. We're also, I will say there are some dollars in both SR2 and SR3 that are designated as either infrastructure fee dollars and or debt service dollars. Most of the debt service dollars have been being paid out each year. Infrastructure fee money, we have not been, because we have one project, I think we're due to get started again within the next couple of weeks. I know they've requested PA1 call to start getting ready to, if you remember the Westchester Pike part of the project,
Yeah.
they're getting ready to do that, so we're gonna dig in there. And if we also, once we get all the full reports back, and well, I think we have the reports, we just haven't had a chance to review all of them. Once we get a chance to review all the reports back from Moore Construction, who did all of the cameraing last year, my guess is there's probably several projects that are gonna need to be done from that, knowing kind of what we've been said. So those dollars would get spent that way. And then you do have some tap fee dollars that have come in that we have not, they're not 100% earmarked, but we've basically earmarked, particularly in SR3, those tap dollars to help us pay down the debt until we get the debt schedule set in such a way. If you recall, I'm losing my dates here, but I think it was 2022 or 2023 that we started this concept of starting to build a debt service fee that would take care of all the debt. Now, with the refinancing, we'll be able to drop that number a little bit, but we had not quite hit that number, the total that we were looking at, because we were going to do it over a 5-year period, so as not to have this huge shock to the ratepayer that all of a sudden we needed, $1,000 a year per household kind of thing. We were looking at trying to make that a little less of a shock to them in that way. And so we did it over a 5-year period, increasing slowly. We will be able to make an adjustment based on the refi. And then we will also, it will also depend on what we think the tap fees that are scheduled to come in. Dave and I probably before the next budget cycle, will need to sit down and talk about what we see on the horizon and what will help to offset that, because the projection originally was that we anticipated that when we did all of that, that National Property Group or whatever group that is the Marvel Group would want to move forward a little bit more quickly. They're not moving as forward,
Sure.
I think, as quickly as we anticipated. So there is a little bit slower pace there. But I think you're all aware that Campus Boulevard is potentially changing and doing something. So there may be that offset, but we just have to look to see what that looks like.
Should we, as a board, segregate that money? The money we're collecting as infrastructure, if it's gonna be set aside.
We track that, but yes,
But
the board should
formally
take an
do that
action
so
and
that
formally
doesn't
do
look
it.
Like
Yes.
we
Okay.
have this big.
I wasn't aware that we hadn't formally
No,
kind of,
no, it's all unrestricted.
yeah, so yeah, we should restrict that for sure, maybe.
And we can do that. The way the audits pieces happen, we have to do it before the end of the year.
Okay,
And the board can take an action and set it that way.
Right, so we can
Okay.
calculate. back-
We've done it
Maybe we do that for
internally,
next meeting.
but we need to
But I
have you
think
do
it
it.
would be good.
It would be good.
And then
Res-
one of the
Formalize
primaries
it
we
to
talked about,
discuss.
like it had the opportunity to
we're gonna.
term out some of the debt.
Formalized cash.
I mean, some of the investment to get better yield.
Yeah, to designate.
Yes.
To
You
restrict
had a
it.
chance
We
to
want to
ask
restrict.
them about that.
I have not, I apologize. I'm trying to get somebody else in here to help me on some of this right now and I
Sure.
don't have it.
Yeah,
But
but
it
we
just-
want to
It
restrict.
just seems like.
Okay, I'll tell us.
if
There's some dollars that we could do better.
Because we're not gonna use 11 million. in
Discuss.
this year.
the
No, we're not.
infrastructure fee
So we could,
as in-
and the
No.
rate
It's
is so
unrestricted,
screwy that,
right.
like, if you
So
look
in
at
other
bank
words,
CD
we
rates,
can use
that
it,
even
spend
the
it on
money
anything.
market, there's not
Yeah.
that much of an increase, but
To be
maybe
able to
some.
do that.
Yeah, we should be able to gain some. I will reach out to them.
Should we do a motion for next meeting, maybe? Do you need a reminder from us, right, to restrict the,
I'll put together, I mean, typically we do it towards the end of the year.
okay,
Because and let me just explain the reason for that. The auditors want to see what you're doing. and they
Gotcha.
wanted to be a part of what they're gonna do for their audit. And
So we don't want to do that.
we don't necessarily want to do that now.
It'll
We'll-
include all
We could do
26.
that probably in the November timeframe. I usually do it November or December for the township. And I'll just add this one and do it at the same time for you.
Okay, perfect.
The second piece that I would, any other questions on the,
Just- If you took the financial statements, the combined SR2, SR3, we're at a small gain of only like $3,800. I
Yeah.
know we had a break-even budget, but it's really running close.
yeah, I mean, the goal is, my goal is not for you to be accumulating lots of
Right.
dollars.
Yeah.
My
Right.
goal is for you to be being pretty close.
Yeah.
Typically, when you've accumulated larger dollars, two things have happened. Either we've had a year where we've had, like, nothing went wrong. And we budget for some to go wrong. We don't budget for everything to go wrong. Or we have a year where we have large amount of tap-in fees. And those help to offset
Mhm.
where you are, except for we don't use those for your operating. We only use those, we pull those out of operating and we move those back over to the capital because we know that's how you're gonna pay for future capital. As well as
Right.
we're using them, we've been using particularly SR3 tap fees to pay for down the debt because we haven't had enough dollars to cover. I think it's the 2.2 million, if I remember exactly, that we're paying right now.
But we should formalize it, I think.
Yeah, we can do that. Anything else?
Anything else for treasurers?
So I did,
Yeah,
I did, but I wanted to go through, yeah,
Are you gonna go through Portnoy? I just
I
have a
am.
question on that.
yeah, go ahead and ask me.
So, it says turned over to Portnoy, 173 they have,
Yes,
173,000. 90,000 plus, like 90,409 is 2022 money.
yes.
That's a concern.
Yeah, what I would say, well, most of it, I think, isn't it? Like.
Well, I just did the first page was 90,000 of
Okay,
2022. And my question is, what are they doing to collect that money?
when you say that it's 22, are you?
So it says final bill date. And if you look at the first page,
Oh, I
page
see what you're
13,
saying.
the first 13 of them are 56,000. The rest ends up being 90,000 on the first page. I didn't even add the second or third page, but
Yes.
that's
So-
old money.
Yeah, so one is they're doing a couple things, and if I recall, at least I think I did this. If I didn't, I apologize. I believe recently here I've sent you an email from Portnoy for a home that they're actually taking to sheriff's sale. I'll have to look back. I know it came in at the like in the middle of everything that was happening. So if not, I will get that out to you. They're starting to do some sheriff sales. Typically, they try to not have to do that because that's a big step.
Sure.
But they've leaned those properties, they've taken those steps, but they're trying to get those dollars.
So what is the policy on when we say it's bad debt and we can't collect?
We don't usually take a really strong
Do the
place
auditors?
on, occasionally, what they look at, from a standpoint is, once we've leaned it, if the value of the lien is not greater than the value of the home, typically they say at some point you'll collect it. Yeah, so,
That was my next question. So that eventually it'll be in a bucket. Okay.
Except you don't know what the mortgage value is.
that's true, but the
mortgage-
the municipality gets ahead of
Oh,
the
that's
bank.
right. They go ahead of the bank, yeah.
So,
That's it. And-
I mean,
Yeah.
let me tell you, it's the long game,
Sure.
right?
Yeah.
I mean, let's
Well,
be honest with you,
long.
it's the long
You
game.
play the long game in the series.
But it's
You
not,
know, but the other side of that is, it's also that balance that you have between, we've asked Portnoy to be rather aggressive. But we've also said we don't necessarily want to go sell every house that's not paying their bill. And so we're trying to get that balance. That's the right balance. I don't think we want to put people out on the street if we don't have to, if we can figure out a way to get those dollars.
okay.
Do we want to have Portnoy come to a meeting maybe once,
I'd love to understand their process.
Yeah,
Yeah, it would probably not be a bad idea. Mike, were you here when we did Portnoy initially?
Yeah.
So
they-
that's
we
been
did
probably,
ask
what,
for
about
one,
4 years,
but
5
I
years?
was thinking 3, but.
That's longer
somewhere
than
around
that.
there.
Might be time, you
Because
know.
I think I was here a little bit before.
Okay,
when it
I
came.
couldn't remember. I thought you were the solicitor at the time, so we can do that. I can ask for Portnoy to come.
Thank you.
Anything else for you, Steve? for
And
the
then
record?
just the second report that's there, the first one was the Portnoy report.
Yeah.
The second report is what I call the non-Portnoy report, or, the without Portnoy. And I do that so that you can see the difference.
Without Portnoy.
There's a lot of accounts, but you'll see a lot of those are pretty current. They're just really what's that last bill, or they're very small amounts. There are a ton of very small amounts. I think the total there is that 140? No, 167.
160.
I was wondering why I recognize so many names on here.
So,
It's been-
but if you look at it, it looks like to me, some people are selectively not paying certain things because it's a very small amount.
Right,
Like they're not paying $15 here or, $9 there. So it may be a late fee that they're just saying, I'm not gonna pay. And so we need to really have those conversations and figure out how we're gonna do that or what we're gonna do. Our policy, if you recall, our policy's always been, if it's not at least 50, we're not even gonna look at it much beyond just sending them a reminder
Mhm.
that they have to do this. Because the cost to go to Portnoy is so great. Initially, it costs you roughly $50 that first time. So we've always tried to make sure it's at least that amount before we send it. And we will need to start looking. We usually try to do that in about September, October. And I will be looking to do that. I'm just hoping I have some assistance by then to help do that. So, but
Absolutely.
that's the report, unless you have any questions.
We appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, next, moving on, Dave Porter is here from McCumbee Engineering.
Hey, thank you, Madam Chair. Report contained in the board's agenda packages for the period of June through July of 2026. Report dated July 16th, close of business, and unfortunately did not capture the most significant event that we'll probably discuss tonight. Nonetheless, in summary, over the last month, engineering services included review of product submittals, follow up with Jurek with regard to the Westchester Pike sewer project and start date. I actually got an email this evening that they're still trying to track down a delivery date from their precast manufacturer for some of the structures, but his guess would be about 3 weeks. So that's consistent with what Steve saw with regard to the PA1 calls being placed in preparation of resuming that project. Also performed coordination with the authority solicitor and developers engineer with regard to the sewage planning and intermunicipal village of Four Seasons, and began evaluating impact of pump stations in connection with the Campus Boulevard proposed development. Election system operations was really no change from the prior month, other than we did receive the videos from More Construction. Had a little bit of an issue with the download for that, so I reached out to George and got a flash drive for that. I was able to download all the videos and started to kind of work my way through that. Haven't gotten into the video surveillance review as much as just kind of started looking at the reports in there. So hopefully over the next month, I'll have a better handle on what's contained as far as problem areas, and we can make recommendations to the authority as far as, where to allocate some of that monies toward future projects. Pump station and force mains, no issues on the force main side. Pump station, you can see that there's the flow reports attached to the very end. There was 2 rainfall events that were greater than 1 inch of rain in 24 hours. No real correlation to spikes in flow related to that, which is a positive. So the system is performing as it should until the, I guess the 12th of June, where we had apparently a power loss and an issue with pumps at the Camelot pump station failing to continue to pump.
And move on.
That condition caused a sanitary sewer overflow, which we discovered on Thursday, the 16th, in the evening, which was after hours. So Steve, I don't know how much in detail we want to get on the floor with the sanitary sewer overflow, but in summary, I was notified, Steve was notified, Public Works responded to the scene, notified our wastewater operator DELCORA, who also responded. We properly notified the DEP. In fact, I followed up with the DEP the following day, who came out to the site to kind of evaluate the situation. Steve and I actually walked the stream corridor with Bill Collins from the DEP to go over what the level of effort of the stream cleanup needed to be. And Bill provided direction to DELCORA's subcontractor with regard to the stream cleanup. So we're kind of still in the process of doing our forensic analysis of what the true cause of the issue was. I mean, speculation right now, it was a power surge or a lightning strike that caused the power failure. I know there were storms in the area that weekend. But it's evident from the guard dog application that the authority bought into. Looking back at the historic flows, there was about 188,000 gallons per day on average daily flow up until Sunday the 12th, where there was a sharp drop off down to zero. The flow runtime for the pumps on Sunday was about half of that what it was on average from June into July. And then the flow readings were zeros across the board from Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Right now the station is on temporary bypass pumping operations, where there are 2 pumps for redundancy there in case one bypass pump fails. The original motors for the station were removed. They're being serviced by DELCORA's motor contractor, and they're going to be, in all likelihood, placed back into service toward the end of the week. Thursday's the target, but we'll see if they can meet that deadline. We had over the last month a request for flow certification, and there's been some coordination with regard to 3557 Westchester Pike. It's a change in use from a retail mercantile to a spa. I issued a capacity certification. Steve signed a sewage facilities planning module mailer that went out to the DEP. It's currently under review right now, so we're waiting to hear back from them. We reviewed 2 public sewer connection permit applications, one for 113 Boot Road, one for 3590 Westchester Pike. And there's really no change on the capital improvements other than the timing for resuming the public sewer restoration project on Westchester Pike. So that concludes my engineer's report, and happy to answer any questions the authority might have.
Okay, any questions? Okay,
Yeah.
thank you very much.
Yeah.
And we know we'll have the operations manager's report. Now, maybe you could start out with just.
Yeah, I'm going to jump right into the sanitary overflow. What I would just add to Dave's report, just a couple things, just so the public is aware. If they're interested in a timeline up to this point of what's happened, we posted that on the website, the township website, newtowntownship.org, and they're welcome to go out there and see that. It's kind of posted as a news flash on the front page. If they click on that, open it up, they'll have a complete list of the timeline that, as we understand what happened at this point. It does not speculate as to any issues of what caused it. It's just focusing on the facts of where we are. I would make note, I was out to the site actually at least once today. I think it was twice, but I've lost track. I will say that while I was out there, I found out that one of the backup pumps had failed. They've actually put a 3rd backup pump out there to make sure that we're covered. And so I understand as of this evening, that 3rd backup pump is on site. We will continue to operate that as a safety valve and checking. One thing I would mention is that I did have a chance on Friday afternoon. We had to make a decision about how we were going to monitor the pump station during this time. I had a phone call with Maria. She and I talked. I recommended to her that we would have missing my pieces here, but have DELCORA out at the site twice a day during this time to make sure until we are confident that everything is operating right. And I would continue that through the time in which we get the pumps back up and operational, unless the board tells me otherwise. Over the weekend, it was an $8 twice, it was 8 hours twice a day that they charged us because they always send two people. And it's always a minimum of 4-hour call. And so we did that. In addition to that, the township staff was out there over the weekend. I myself was out there over the weekend just to check on it. And so we've been watching that. We'll continue to do that. That's going to be our continued process until we get the pump station back up and fully operational. There's lots of check and balances that are there. I want eyes until I know that we're in good shape. I would make note also that I was told today that the cleaning staff would probably be there at least through this whole entire week, cleaning up not only where the sewer flow came out initially, but any place that it had flowed to and flowed through.
Do we need to make any insurance aware of this? How do we preserve our rights to get to the bottom of the liability at the end of the day?
Yeah, so I notified our insurance company on Friday, put them on notice at that point. I think there's actually two different policies that this might fall under. One is a pollution policy that we have, and then the other would be just a basic liability policy that we have. And so we put that notification in on Friday. I haven't done anything else at this point, but to put them on notice.
Okay. More stands to be learned on that whole issue.
Yeah.
Okay, what else on the
The-
operation?
Did you have a
manager?
question?
Well, I just want to so my mind is shifting. I think the cleanup efforts are well underway from what I hear. I appreciate boots on ground. I now am shifting to the cause and the bills and liability. And I just want to make sure that the authority is protecting itself and our ratepayers and
And I'm
making
just
sure.
going to interrupt you on this
Okay.
because, I mean, it is something that's currently under investigation. And I think at this point, there's no action for us to take. The insurance carriers have been put on notice and, obviously, it's no action that we need to be taking as far as the board.
There's a question about process.
I guess my question was, have we made sure that we've reviewed the logbooks of who was on site and who was doing these checks and the responsible parties for checking the systems?
Let me just say from a standpoint, if I can, that will be a part of our investigation.
Yeah, so I think we need to undertake an investigation, whether we do that through the administration or through my office or through some third party, I think is something we probably need to discuss as we get further into this. Just depending on how it evolves a little bit.
Okay.
Okay,
I think I would just say this. I think it's going to take some time to get really good answers as to everything that was involved. And so
we want
need
to make
be
sure
working
we
through
do
that.
it the right way. and
Yes.
collect
We,
accurate information.
your engineer and your solicitor and myself have been in pretty regular contact since the event happened and will continue to be as we take steps, and we'll be making recommendations to you along the way.
Okay.
A couple quick things I just want to give you some information on. Public Works on your behalf has done 116 PA1 calls this month. 107 of those were routine, 9 of those were emergencies, which means we were called out and had to do it within I think it's within an hour period, and we did those. They've also, Public Works staff has been working with Mardinley Industrial, who is our generator third party who we've been using. And they have found through their inspections that the Goshen, Newtown Hunt, Tanglewood, Lissitor, and Camelot pump stations all had lubricant contamination. And so they're working with them to get what it would take to correct that and why we're getting that contamination. Interestingly enough, they also found that the Hickory pump station had a lubricant issue. And so we've asked them how that's possible. They just installed that. And so we've asked them to ask how they're addressing that issue in that way. We have, just so you know, we went out to bid for our mowing for the township, and that includes all the pump stations. And so we've been working with them to make sure that's done every week. And in addition to that, our staff has been out at the stations and trying to do some weed growth remediation, as well as a fair amount of down trees and branches that have been blocking the entrance, mostly to the Old Masters pump station. If you remember, that's the one that's kind of the furthest off the road. And so it's next to the woods. And so there's oftentimes when we have a storm, they have to get out and do that. The manhole at Cayley Road and Charles Ellis Drive, or in between that on 252, had sunk. And so the Public Works staff worked with PennDOT, and we closed the lane one day and raised that manhole back up, fixed that, and got that repair done. We've been working with RHM on the cleaning and root control and investigation of I&I as we continue to do that. And the only other thing I think that I wanted to report back, we did find one manhole that had been buried on a property. So we think that, the property owner had covered over it. And so we found that manhole, and we've excavated that manhole, and we're communicating with the property owner that they can't do that and make sure that it stays available. That was over in the Delmont area. And then finally, the municipal authority staff, our township staff on the municipal authority's behalf has been working with PICO. We've don't know if you watched the PICO bills right closely, but we've actually had quite a few late payments. One of the reasons is that they were not even sending us the bills. And so they weren't willing to not charge us the late payment, even though they weren't sending us the bill. And so we've been kind of fighting with them on that, to put it mildly. But we're also working, the big thing we're trying to do is get all of the bills put on a summary bill, so that we would get one bill a month from PICO. That would be for all of your locations, and that everything would be together. Make sure that it's only municipal authority PICO bills that are on that bill, and they're not trying to mix township bills. And so we're working through that just to make sure that that's taken care of. So George and Mona, our accounts payable person, have been working very closely with PICO on that. It's the slowest process that I've ever gone through. I think you could go and have a full root canal done on every tooth in your mouth and be done more quickly. So it might even be more enjoyable. But anyway, we've actually met with our PICO rep, and she said, yeah, I don't know how to help you through that. It's just painful. And so, but the person who's there is wanting to help us, and we're trying to get it done. That's my report.
Okay. All right, moving on then, unless anybody has any other questions. Okay. Consider approving the bills on check register dated July 2026, totaling $69,463.72. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Motion from Steve, second from Walter. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Consider approving the semi-annual bond payment totaling $1,064,116.18. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Walter.
Second.
Second from Steve. Any questions or comments on that? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. And the resolution's already been passed. Any new business or anything?
I asked a question. On top of this, it says public comment is limited to 3 minutes per resident or taxpayer. You never said anything about that. Is that something?
It's probably a policy of ours that we've adopted.
It's a policy of the townships. It
Okay.
went on top of all of it.
I just thought.
It's a policy of the townships that went on top of all of it. If you don't want that, I would assume that you have the authority to change that.
Or we could just not enforce it, because there's times, like there are people here with historic buildings, they want waivers, it takes more than 3 minutes.
Well, that could be a different piece, like you could treat that as a different
Okay.
thing, but the idea was to, if somebody's just standing up and making comments,
Oh,
it gives you a control point that it doesn't go on for a long period of time.
If there's some problems that take more. than
Well,
3
but
minutes.
if you want to address the problem, address the problem. You have the right to do that as a board,
Okay.
but you don't necessarily have to treat it as a public.
Okay.
If you treat all public comment just as, if you're just making a comment, that's fine. But if you're bringing a problem before the board and the board chooses to address it, the board can do that.
Okay.
I
Thank you.
would recommend that if we can, we get rid of that unless and until we adopt a policy that includes it.
Yeah.
I just feel more
Recall
comfortable if
having
you're
a
in.
policy with 3 minutes, and
No,
I
I don't-
think we have a policy, but I don't
I
I
don't know
think
if we
it's
have a public comment
reasonable or
policy.
something like that.
I don't recall that the municipal authority has a specific
Yeah.
one
I-
that they've
I-
adopted. And so I will go back and look and check, but I don't think they've.
Yeah,
I
I'd
don't
say
think
this
they-
from I'm not suggesting a policy is a bad idea. A lot of places have it and, in a lot of situations it makes sense. I just could get concerned from a First Amendment standpoint if you don't have a policy in place and you start sort of
Yeah,
limiting people's ability to comment publicly. It feels a little uncomfortable.
all right, so why don't we take that off for the next time, Steve, and then
I will.
we'll talk about, let's at least review to see if we have a
Let's see if
policy.
we have one. Maybe we have one that says 3 minutes and we won't take it off.
I don't think yours does, because the
don't
board
think
just
it does
changed
either.
their policy within the last couple months, and when we change a heading in this, in our software, it changes it everywhere. I'll have to figure out how to take it off of this one only, and we'll do that.
Well, if we approve it next meeting, we're.
Well, but I'll take it off until you
Okay.
approve it.
Yeah.
And you may say that you want to do something different. I just need to know what that is if you want us to put a policy together.
Or if you do 30
Yeah.
seconds.
I mean, you don't have a lot of public comment
No,
typically,
we really,
and
Until I
as-
get
as Walter
filibustered here
is-
till 9:30 PM, then,
Huh?
unless I'm getting filibustered till 9:30 PM for some reason by somebody,
Yeah.
then.
Yeah, as Walt mentioned, you've more had people come in with a concern that they're wanting you to address versus somebody coming in and making a true statement
Right.
about something that you're doing. But most of our other committees are actually getting a lot of statements, and that's the reason why that was put into place.
right. All right,
Thank you.
if there's nothing further, for the good of the order, I adjourn this meeting.
Thank you, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Maria.
Just make note. Needed to be made on